Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through a deep dive into the brand new collection from Goss. This is the collector's edition. It is primarily an eye brush set. There are some larger brushes, namely 1 and 2, and a few other large eye brushes that could be used for face application or however you wish. They are currently available on Beautylish as a set for $497. Now, I really hesitated making a purchase that large, when in reality in Wayne's reveal video, there wasn't really that much information about the brushes. He's always very succinct, but when the brushes cost $497, I really wanted a lot more detail in terms of the shapes, how they were compared to some of the existing line, and the bristle type as well, because in his video, he had said it was a blend of blue squirrel and synthetic, but in actuality, most of the brushes are a blend of blue squirrel and goat. So in this video, I'm going to go through comparisons, close-up views of each individual brush. I'm going to show you how they come packaged. I'm going to point out my favorites, and hopefully you're going to find this helpful in making your decision. It was very difficult for me to spend $500 on these brushes. They are available individually or also as smaller subsets, but there's no savings to buying it in a set, so there's nothing wrong with picking your favorites, and hopefully this video is going to help you do so. There's timestamps down below, so feel free to hop around to the part of the video that is most interesting to you. Because I made such a huge investment, if you do decide that you want to purchase any of the brushes, I would really appreciate it if you used my affiliated links in the description box. Those are just monetized links that I create on my own. I purchase these brushes on my own. I have no affiliation to Beautylish or Wayne Goss whatsoever, aside from just being a fan of his work and his products. So let's go ahead and get started. This is how the brushes come packaged when you receive them. They come wrapped in this black tissue paper with a sticker. So they're wrapped into a nice little triangle, and each brush is individually packaged in one of these cellophane wrappers. There's no indication on the packaging with regard to where they are made. On the Beautylish website, it says that they are made in Japan. They're handmade Japanese brushes, or Fude. But again, there's no indication as to who the manufacturer might be or where in Japan they were manufactured. As an example, I have 2 of Sonia G's latest collections here, and you can see that they have this sticker on the cellophane wrapper that they indicate that these are Kumano Fude. So this is the mini sheer buffer and the sheer buffer. These are ones that I got right at the beginning of this year. One was after Christmas and the other one at the beginning of this year. So you see those. Here are some brushes from Refer, and you can see that they also have that Kumano Fude tag. Here's a brush from Koyudo, and you see the sticker there and the brush inside. Here's a collection by Shikuhodo, and if I open this one up, you can see that they have the Kumano Fude tag on that one as well. This was a collection S 2024, so I think maybe a springtime collection. This one is a brush from Bisyodo, and let me take a look inside. It says it's made in Japan, and then on the back, on the sticker, it says made in Japan. This one I just bought from Fude Beauty. It says made in Japan on the brush, and here's the information on the back. It says made in Japan, but no indication as to where it might be made. Here I have some treasures I bought from Hakuhodo before they switched their bristle type. And let me open this up. Here I can grab one brush. Here's an example of the brush, and it says manufactured by Hakuhodo, and it does say Kumano. This one is the G5513. I'm actually glad this set has a very similar brush. I love tiny little brushes like this. I wanted to also show you this brush by What's Up Beauty. Like, this is not a traditional Fude manufacturer, but they do make Japanese handmade brushes. And you can see that these are handmade in Japan from uncut and undyed goat hair. I really appreciate the packaging. I don't think they get enough credit for that. Most of the people that use What's Up Beauty brushes have received them in PR, but I purchased them all. And I have to say, I do prefer the eye brushes to the face brush shapes that they've had so far, but I just wanted to show you this one as an example. All that to say, these are made in Japan, but I don't know necessarily where or if they can be classified as Kumano Fude. I do see that people frequently ask Wayne Goss on his videos if the original manufacturer of the brushes are Hakuhodo because of some of the similarities in shape, like that small one I just mentioned. But it's not a question I've ever seen him answer. So do with that as you will. So here they are all out of their packaging, and they are organized brushes 1 through 13. In terms of the fiber type, they all have blue squirrel, and they are combined with either goat, synthetic, or horsehair. Brushes 7 and 9, which you can see here, they have the darker fibers. These are the ones that are a combination of blue squirrel and synthetic. So those are brushes 7 and 9. And here you have brush number 12, which is the one that is in combination with horsehair. All of the other brushes are goat. As I mentioned before, the brushes are numbered 1 through 13. You can see the number on this side and the Wayne Goss logo on that side. So this differs from the numbering convention that he did from his most recent release. Here's an example from that one, which was the first edition. And this one, for example, is labeled as F5, but then it's the brand new logo, the WG. So the logo is the same, but the numbering scheme is a little bit different. Another thing to note between the first edition and the collector's edition is that the first edition has a matte ferrule on all of the brushes, whereas the collector's edition has the more reflective ferrule as well as the handles. So the handles are very similar in shape and also in weight. However, the ferrules are going to differ. These are shiny, and again, the first edition are matte. One thing with the numbering, and this is, it could be petty, but it's just something to note that, for example, brush number 6 and brush number 9, if you're using these in videos or you're trying to tell somebody which brush you have, they could potentially both look like 6s or both look like 9s, depending on how you look at the brush. So it's important that you look at the logo, put the logo facing the right way when you look at it, and then it's the number 6. And then the number 9 is this one on this side. So you see, here we go, the logo in the right orientation and the number 9 brush. We're gonna put these aside and look at them one by one in comparison to brushes in his prior collections now. Since this collector's edition is mostly eye brushes, I'm going to be comparing them to some of the previous collections that Wayne Goss had. In my hand, I have the one that was formerly known as the eye set, and this has brushes number 16 through 20. These are some of my most used brushes in my collection. Most of them are blending brushes. As you can see, there's one that could be like a shading or lay down brush, but the others are blending brushes. So I'm going to use these for comparison. I also have these brushes. I don't know if you remember these, but these had the pink labels on them. These are the eye brushes from the Anniversary Collection Volume 2, and these are brushes number 3 through 8. So these have more of those shader brushes, some pencil brushes, and in addition to that, I have only 2 from the previous collection to that, which was Blue Squirrel, and those have this kind of grayed out logo, and I have brushes number 3 and number 6. So these are just Blue Squirrel bristles, and clearly he doesn't make them like that anymore. This is brush number 1. It is the blusher brush. It is a thicker version of the iconic airbrush that fits into the contours of the cheek to apply bronzer, loose powder, and blush. The airbrush, which was referenced here, happens to be one of my favorite brushes in my collection, so much so that I have 3. There was this one in the special edition packaging, but I do also have the original. I believe that this was my gateway into Fude because I received this brush in a Beautylish lucky bag. And from there on, you can see how much my collection has grown. So here are the 2 brushes side by side. You can see that the brush number 1 is much larger, and it's also more fluffy than the airbrush. You can see it in profile here. Very, very similar shape, just much larger. From just looking at them, I can say I still will prefer the airbrush because I have a smaller face and smaller features, and I love this brush for setting underneath my eyes. Not to say that you couldn't use this one. It's just a little bit bigger, so I would probably use this one for more face product application as opposed to under eye setting. Here you have brush number 2. It is a cheek brush, similar to brush number 02. It's a super soft powder brush featuring uniquely tapered bristles to apply contour, highlighter, and precision powder. I happen to have brush 02 here. This one has the purple writing or pink writing, which means it's from the Anniversary Collection Volume 2. And if you compare them, you can see that the 02 brush is a little bit more fluffy than the 2 brush from this new collection. Of course, that could also be that this brush has been used and this one is brand new. They have a tendency to bloom after the first washing, but here you can see a comparison. The new brush is smaller, and then of course the bristle type is a little bit different. I do also have this Wayne Goss number 10. This one was from the face set, and this one is also very similar in size, as you can see, and the top has a little bit more of a taper like this one does. This brush number 10 is just goat. Next, we have the number 3 brush. This is a round blender brush. It's Wayne's favorite. This versatile brush is small enough to go from spot applying concealer or foundation to blending eyeshadow. This one, I think, is the most unique in the entire collection. I couldn't find anything in my existing collection that is similar. I would say the most similar is the E1 brush from the first collection, but you can see that this one is perfectly rounded while the first collection brush has more of a paddle shape. But I can see using these 2 brushes for similar purposes. I do really like this number 3 brush. I'm going to enjoy using it to apply like cream eyeshadow, concealer definitely. Here you have the number 4 large fluffy brush. It says use it flat or on its side for eyeshadow and highlighter application and precision powder work. So you can see this one is very flat, and it's also fairly narrow. There is nothing in my existing Wayne Goss collection that is similar to this brush. It's got the same shape as the airbrush, but of course it's much, much smaller. Here you have the number 5 brush. It's an angled brush. It says an angled brush gets in creases and corners to apply precise contour and highlighter. I like this one as well because most of his brushes are actually symmetric. This does remind me of a certain MAC brush. I think it was the 239 that had this asymmetric shape, but it was much smaller. So me, with my small hooded eyes, this one will be more challenging to use to deepen out the outer V because it's just a larger brush. It is a very nice brush, and I would say it's a unique shape to his collection. These are brushes number 6 and 7. They're designated large and medium crease brushes, respectively. So if you focus on the large one, you can see that the bristles are a little bit longer. They have the blue squirrel and goat blend. You can also see that it's very, very pointed at the top. Brush number 7 is a little bit smaller. The bristles are a little shorter. The bristle type is also different. This one is blue squirrel mixed with synthetic, so you can see that you have the darker color to the fibers. Overall, I think these are nice blending brushes, but I think that a person with a more defined crease or maybe deep set eyes would appreciate these brushes more because of that taper. I do prefer the number 7 because it seems like it's a little bit more fluffy for my hooded eyes. I basically have no crease whatsoever, and I think I'll be able to use it a little bit better. In comparison to the blending brushes from the eye set, which I really, really love, you can see that the eye set, those are the ones with the white bristles, they are more bloomed, right? They're more open. It's more of a dome shape rather than pointed. And so since I have no crease, the points usually have a tendency to make sharp edges or lines when I'm applying eyeshadow, whereas something like the dome shape gives me a little bit more of a diffused look. Again, once I wash and start using the brushes, that may open up a little bit more and create more of that dome shape that I really, really love. But right now, in comparison, you can see they are a little bit more pointed. I wanted to show you the 2 new blending brushes on the left compared to brush number 3. And this is from his anniversary collection. I have the all blue squirrel version as well as the goat hair version. And with these, you can see the same. These are more domed shapes rather than pointed. So I do prefer the older brushes for that reason. So these are both brush number 3 in comparison to the new 6 and 7. When comparing blending brushes, I also wanted to show you the E2 brush from the first edition. And this one is very pointed. I would say this one is more pointed than the new brushes from the collector's edition. So if you have the E2 brush, then the brushes number 6 and 7 are going to be just a little bit less pointed. Here you have brushes 8 and 9. They are the medium and small blender brush respectively. So again, you have the number 8 with the blue squirrel and goat, so you have the lighter fibers, and the number 9 is blue squirrel and synthetic, so those are showing up as the darker fibers. They're very, very similar in shape and size. This would be akin to something like the MAC 217 in terms of shape. They're very, very similar. So I wanted to compare brushes 8 and 9 to brush number 18, and that's from the eye set again. You can see that the shape is nearly identical. It does have that taper. Again, my brush number 18 is a little bit more fluffy. Again, it's a brush that I've used. You can see it's a very, very similar shape. And here they are compared to my number 6 brush. These are in blue squirrel and then in goat. These are the number 6 brushes. So you can see the shape is very similar to the new brushes. A synthetic brush, so this is the 26S from his collection when he started releasing synthetic brushes. Very, very similar shape again. So in terms of shapes, this isn't really adding much to my collection, but I do like to have the combination bristles so that I can use them with more of the hybrid formulas that are being available now in terms of eyeshadow. I want to show you brushes 10 and 13 next because they are also a similar shape, just different in size. These are kind of like packing brushes. The number 10 is described as a flat laydown brush for packing on color, and number 13 is a detail brush. Tiny flat laydown brush for small delicate eyes, nose contour, tight lining, and brows. So you can see these are very, very similar shapes. These are some of my favorite brushes in the new collection because I really love laying down shimmers on the lid, and again, I have very small eyes, so tiny brushes like this are very helpful for me. So I wanted to compare brushes 10 and 13 to brushes E4 and 07. Clearly brush 13 is going to be smaller than all of them, so I'll just put that one to the side and we'll compare E4 to number 10. So here you have the shapes, very, very similar in shape and size as well. The difference being the bristle type. This is the E4 from the first edition. Here you have it next to the 07 from the Anniversary Collection Volume 2. Very similar in shape. The Anniversary Collection brush might be a little bit smaller, just a tad. And now let's move on to the last two brushes, which are pencil brushes. Here you have brushes 11 and 12. They are medium pencil brush and small pencil brush respectively. For the number 11, it's described as a large pencil brush with a fine point small enough for the lash line. And for the number 12, it says pencil brush with a fine point small enough for the lash line as well. These are very pointed brushes. They are soft. I would say that the smaller brush has a little bit more softness. If you're worried about the delicate lash line area, I would recommend the number 12 over the 11 just based on how they feel. The number 12 has a little bit more give to the bristles than the one that is blended with goat, but they're very similar. For comparison, let's go to the first edition first. This is the E5. This is a pencil brush as well. However, I find that the top of the first edition brush is more domed compared to the collector's edition. Here are the two new pencil brushes compared to the 05 brush from the Anniversary Collection. Again, the 05 brush is more domed compared to the new brushes. I do have a synthetic version of a pencil brush. This is the 27S brush. And just like the others, a little bit more domed than the new brushes. So here are all the brushes 1 through 13, and I want to kind of pick out my favorites just based on playing with them and comparing them to the shapes that I already have. My number 1 favorite is without a doubt brush number 13 and brush number 3. These are the ones that I would select as being the most unique, especially when compared to other Wayne Goss brushes. I would also like to give a mention to brush number 5 as being a very unique one, even though I do prefer that it were a little bit smaller, maybe like half the size that it is, again, just for my hooded eyes. I do also like brush number 10 because I really enjoy lay down packing brushes, and I think that this one is going to do a very, very nice job. But in terms of the shape, when you saw the comparisons, there's nothing really unique about this shape or size, but it is a really nice one from the new collection. This is an interesting one, number 4. because of the size. It's a very large brush. I think that this would be really good for a full wash of color on the lid. If you're the type that likes, you know, one matte eyeshadow or just a few, then this I think would be very nice to get the job done very, very quickly and beautifully blended. For me, with my smaller eyes, that probably would be the only use I would do. It could also be used for highlighting as well, although I prefer something that's a little bit more flexible for highlighting, just so that I can get a lighter application. The two face brushes are very, very nice. I don't think that there's anything super unique about the shape, although I will mention that the number 2 brush, with regard to brushes of this shape, it is incredibly soft and very, very flexible. So I think it would provide a very diffuse application. Same for the number 1 brush as well. They're very nice. Again, I just don't think that the shapes are super unique, but I'm glad to have them. That's everything for this video. I hope you did find it helpful. And if you did, if it helped you make your decision, or if you have any other questions, leave those in the comments section down below. If it did help you, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel. That would really help me out. And possibly use the links that I put in the description box as an affiliate link, since I kind of took one for the team here in purchasing this. I am happy with the brushes. I can't wait to use them. They're beautiful, and I'm definitely going to enjoy having them in my collection. But like I said in the beginning, it was a big ask to make such a large investment for brushes that you really didn't have that much detail about. So hopefully this video helped you make your decisions, and I'm curious to know which ones you added to your collection and what you think of them, or if any of these caught your eye. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again very, very soon on my next video. Bye-bye.